In this video, we'll cover some tips on how to reduce our exposure to the herbicide glyphosate, especially in our food. I'm Dr. Jinmee Graham, and if you came here for my last two videos, we talked about glyphosate, the herbicide, and where it's commonly found, as well as the impacts it has on our health and environment. Now, is it possible to avoid glyphosate in our food, considering its widespread use? In this video, we'll cover some tips on how to reduce our exposure to the herbicide glyphosate, especially in our food. Now, foods labeled non-GMO typically contain fewer glyphosate residues, as most of the glyphosate-containing foods are genetically modified GMO foods. However, as we discussed in previous videos, because glyphosate is also being used as a drying agent before harvest, and due to wind drift and the pervasiveness of glyphosate in our environment, it is not uncommon to find glyphosate on non-GMO foods as well. We also talked about how certified organic products are legally not allowed to have any herbicide or pesticide used on them, which makes them a much safer choice. Now, while certified organic products do have less glyphosate residues, it is still hard to avoid them completely. We are now seeing available on some products a glyphosate residue-free certification, which signifies rigorous testing and no glyphosate residues found on those products. So look out for that label, as that is also a great indication on the presence of glyphosate in those foods. The Environmental Working Group, EWG, also puts out great resources every year on the pesticide residues found on different products. They put out an annual list where they look at the top 12 foods containing the highest levels of pesticides, including glyphosate, called the Dirty Dozen list. So these are the foods that you'd want to avoid buying conventionally and buy organic as much as you can to try again to avoid some of that glyphosate and pesticide contamination. They also have a Clean 15 list with the top 15 foods that are found to have the least amount of pesticides. So if your budget is tight, then those are a little bit safer to buy conventional and don't have to be organic. Now, for those who can create and sustain a home garden, I always like to say that this is a great option for the family, and it's a way to control what goes on your food and use organic practices to better support your family's overall health. Next best is purchasing from local farmers who use organic practices and glyphosate-free methods, as they often have more transparent farming practices. It's always important to reiterate the importance of taking care of your overall foundations of health, and physically this looks like the quality of your nutrition, hydration, exercise, sleep, and connection to nature. So being outside with the natural elements, sunlight, fresh air, putting your feet on the ground, called grounding, not only to mitigate some of the harmful effects of glyphosate and other toxins, but to better support your overall resilience and internal terrain to support a healthier you. While we may not be able to avoid glyphosate entirely, do what you can in taking small, manageable steps to gradually reduce your overall exposure to glyphosate, especially in your food, and this can go a very long way. For more information about glyphosate, I recommend checking out the book Toxic Legacy by Dr. Stephanie Seneff. It is a great resource and a wealth of information all about glyphosate and its effect on our health and the environment, as well as some of the organizations I mentioned earlier, such as Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. And as much as you can, consider supporting organizations that are calling for transparent labeling and reduced pesticide use. I'm Dr. Jinmee Graham, and if you like this video, stay tuned for more holistic health content for children and families.